Also, crocodiles can go on land, so you can shoot death scenes on land of it eating like the big titty bikini bitches on land and in the water. But sharks get all the fucking attention, and that's why this video needs to exist. Can you imagine getting eaten by a fucking dinosaur? Because it's a real possibility, and it happens 1,000 fucking times annually.
You lost, boy.
For no particular reason at all, I would like to talk about crocodile and alligator films. I know that the name of the video is Crocodile Movies, but Crocodile and Alligator Movies sounded a bit dumb. So it's called Crocodile Movies because I like crocodiles better than alligators. But we will be discussing movies of the alligator genre. And if you want to fucking argue with me and say that they're two separate genres, I've got news for you, buddy. They're the same genre. If you're being eaten by one of those two things, you're not going to be like getting attacked and thrashed around and it's doing the death roll and breaking off your arm and you're going to be like, wait, I gotta see its nose and identify its species. It's hot. Holy shit. This is going to be a long video for no reason at all. I'm just talking about stupid shit. My buddy and I have like a real passion for these. Like there was this time period in 2017, like over the summer, where it seemed like we would, like every single day, he would come over to my place and we'd have like a stack of like Lake Placid, Anaconda, Jaws, you know, just like all like the hits of like big animal attack movies of animals that live underwater, and we would just watch these movies incessantly. I don't know, there's a certain craft and art style to making one of these. If you can make one well, there's really no movie more entertaining than aquatic horror. That's like the ultimate subgenre, but it's just so niche and so specific, and there's so much of it that is bad. So the purpose of this video is not to point out ones that are bad, but more so to just celebrate these movies as a whole, and also recommend some ones that I think are good and maybe that you might not have seen, and also just talk about ones that we've obviously all seen. Eventually I will do a shark movies video. It's coming. I just think crocodiles and alligators need to get their just due first, because I got my handy dandy laptop here to bring up some statistics for you. According to the Wikipedia, a shark attack is an attack on a human performed by a shark, obviously. Every year around 80 unprovoked attacks. That's an important distinction. An unprovoked attack is like if I'm swimming in the ocean, minding my own business, and a shark comes up and bites me in the ass, that would be an unprovoked attack. But if I'm fishing and I'm wrangling a shark up onto my boat and it jerks its head around and like bites my arm, I provoked it. I was being an asshole. The shark retaliated. But out of more than 489 sharks species, only 3 of them are responsible for a double-digit number of fatal, unprovoked attacks on humans. That's the great white, the tiger, and the bull shark. I could even tell you that without even reading this, because I'm just obsessed with these fucking animals. But the oceanic white-tip has probably killed many more castaways, but these are not recorded in statistics. That's for some reason that scares the shit out of me. An average of 4.3 people a year die as a result of shark attacks. That's between 2001 and 2010. So let's just take that, an average, 4 people. And that would be like, maybe 1 person a year, 1 year, and then another year, maybe 6 people or something. So it averages out about 4.3 people a year get killed by a shark. And that's not eaten by a shark. They got bit. The shark was like, I don't like the way that tastes. Spit them out, and then they bled out later. Okay? Let's go look at crocodile statistics for a second. Crocodile attacks on humans are common in places where large crocodilians, our native and human populations, live. It has been estimated that about 1,000 people, 1,000 people are killed by crocodilians each year.
4.3.
1,000.
Why are shark movies as big as they are? Well, that's why they're as big as they are. But isn't that kind of bullshit? Why wasn't Jaws about crocodiles? Could you imagine if the same movie had been made, but it was about crocodiles? The same movie, but it was a crocodile instead. Like a badass mechanical crocodile. And it was just as good and just as big of a hit and just as big of a cultural impact. We could have had Crocodile NATO.
We could have had Crocodile NATO!
But instead we got fucking Sharknado. And look, I love sharks and I love shark movies. But crocodiles have been busting their ass, killing 1,000 people a year, just for you motherfuckers not to make Jaws about them. I would be pissed if I was a crocodile. Also, crocodiles can live for like 2 centuries. 200 years, motherfucker. Killing 1,000 people a year? Like, also, crocodiles can go on land. So you can shoot death scenes on land of it eating like big titty bikini bitches on land and in the water. But sharks get all the fucking attention, and that's why this video needs to exist. To show you that crocodile movies and fucking alligator movies have just as much stake in the fucking game, have just as much scales in the fucking game, have just as much scales in the game as sharks do. In fact, more, because sharks don't have scales. They have serrated skin that's smooth this way, but cuts your hand this way.
It's science!
Getting off topic, let's talk about some crocodile and alligator movies. And we're gonna come back to the laptop in a second because I have another topic I want to discuss with you. But right now, we're gonna not mention sharks the rest of the time because we've proved that crocodiles are more dangerous and more scary, and we're gonna try our best to just focus on crocodiles. It's their big day, guys. And for the purposes of this video, unless I'm specifically discussing a movie about an alligator, we're going to just refer to these as crocodile movies. But I'm also referencing the fact that there are alligator movies. For all you alligator fans out there, I'm sorry that I keep calling these crocodile movies. And I'm generalizing, I'm blanket statementing, I'm what is it called when you're talking about erasure. I'm performing alligator erasure on the subgenre of alligator movies, but I promise you, I love alligator movies. I do. I love them just as much as crocodile movies. But the cold hard science, bro, is that crocodiles kill 1,000 people annually, and those statistics are underreported, because in a lot of the attacks happen in countries where they don't keep track of this shit. So someone could be getting eaten by a crocodile right now, like 5 people, and we won't know about it. But in like a first world country, we report these statistics, and there's like 1,000 still, globally, of people that get fucking not just killed, but eaten. Like I said with the shark, they bite you and spit you out because you taste like ass butter, but a crocodile's like,
ooh, a human? Delectable. Mind if I literally consume your whole body?
Can you imagine getting eaten by a fucking dinosaur? Because it's a real possibility, and it happens 1,000 fucking times annually. But alligators don't do that, is what I was gonna say. I know people are gonna bring up the Disneyland thing. That was a one-time thing, and it didn't even eat the kid, because that's just the way alligators are. And also, alligators don't even grow as big as crocodiles. So they're really, these should all be about crocodiles, but there are movies that are about alligators that are terrific, which is what we're going to be talking about in a bit. Let's just get started, please, for the love of fucking Christ.
We're out here. No more jail. No more prison. No more fucking prison food. I am sick and tired of that dog shit prison food they gave us. Look at this. Grains, minerals, vitamin A, B, C, E, F, G. It's like heaven.
Everything a grown boy needs.
You know, not liking you so much. Hey, last camera guy just didn't talk, so you just keep doing your thing. I know I'm a little on shredding.
Can I ask at least one question?
What? What do you want?
Sam, what happened to your mustache?
Come here.
Oh.
Listen, I told you to never ask me that on camera.
Hey, I know, but aren't your fans gonna want to know what
Hey,
happened?
you know what? You want to see something real cool?
Yeah.
Something real cool.
Yeah, show me.
Want to see this knife right here?
Yeah.
Let me show you what I can do.
Okay, show me.
Eaten Alive. This is a Tobe Hooper movie. Yeah, if you were a fan of Tobe Hooper's classic film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then you are in for a treat. This was Hooper's follow-up film to Chainsaw. In fact, it features the same damsel in distress, Marilyn Burns, and was co-written by Chainsaw collaborator Kim Henkel. This movie will rock your balls, okay? Not only is it a crocodile movie, I think it's actually an alligator. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately for the guest, he also caters to his pet alligator's voracious appetite. Imagine a slasher movie about a redneck guy directed by Tobe Hooper where he runs this motel, or he runs a hotel. It's out in the middle of like the fucking swamp, and it literally looks like a hotel that like the Scooby Gang's van would break down in front of. It's like covered in cobwebs and like flickering lights, and this dude that looks like he's going to sniff your underwear if you leave it unattended. He's a creep. And he wears his jumpsuit, he's all hunched over, and he's got oily fucking hair, and he's gross, okay? He has a pet alligator that in the back of it with this like dock that walks out onto it, perfect for him to like push you into. Kind of like, do you guys see X? X was totally referencing this movie. Deep cut reference, but it was referencing this. This is a slasher movie about this redneck guy with a scythe that goes around killing women in their underwear. Okay, we need to buckle down and discuss this movie in depth. I'm not giving it the credit it deserves. It's legitimately really good, and my mind is elsewhere. They go to this hotel, and there's a guy with a scythe that kills people that stay at the hotel. But if he doesn't get you, his pet alligator's gonna get you. And Robert Englund is also in this movie as the rapist redneck guy. It's got a lot going on. It's a very scummy, gross, dirty looking movie. But if you want to watch a Tobe Hooper directed slasher film, like one that's directed well, he didn't just shit this one out. This was a legitimate attempt to follow up Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. That motherfucker's follow-up was, I'm going to do that again, but it's going to be one guy with a scythe. But the kicker, the catch, the selling point, if you will, is that he has a pet alligator. It's also known as Brutes and Savages, Death Trap, Horror Hotel Massacre, Legend of the Bayou, Murder on the Bayou, and the Starlight Slaughter. But here it's just called Eaten Alive. It's honestly more entertaining than Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a way, because it's not as like hard to watch. It's so quick paced, it's so scummy and so trashy that you're not kind of like rethinking your own mortality while watching it like you do when you're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're more just kind of enjoying the ride. But like I said, you get an alligator eating people mixed with scenes of like just straight slasher movie guy chasing girl in her underwear through a swamp with a scythe. And it really just never stops. It's also quite funny because sometimes it forgets that it's also a killer alligator movie. So the guy will be like chasing someone and then they'll run to get away from him and fall into his little pool and get eaten by his alligator. And the look on his face is,
Oh, shit. I forgot I had that fucking alligator. Damn it.
I talked about it first mostly because I don't think a lot of people know about it, and it's a great, like, it's genuinely really good, and it's super fun. I can't recommend it enough. It's definitely one of my favorite Tobe Hooper films. But I also talked about it because it's technically a slasher movie first and a killer alligator movie second. But it is great. It is a good one. I guess we'll move on.
My ass is pretty soft.
It's not even that bad. You never had a knife in your ass before?
No.
Son, let me tell you. I'd go to bed every night with a knife in my ass.
Hey, Sam, you get her?
Whew. A little bit of mud on the pant.
Let's see her.
Ow. A little bit of tear in the pant.
So I have Lake Placid in the stack. And there's also some movies that we're going to talk about that aren't in this stack. So don't think that just because you've seen the titles here that you know what else is coming. There's more to come. I promise you, I've got more secrets and surprises in store. I've got Lake Placid in here, but I've tricked you. We're not going to talk about Lake Placid today. I merely am bringing it up because it is kind of like the gold standard for killer crocodile movies. But there's a bunch of other Lake Placid movies, and I'd rather do all of the Lake Placids in one go. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it and tell you that it is the most accessible, the highest budget, probably the highest budgeted, kind of like most real movie-ish killer crocodile movie. This is also the full screen edition. I'm like really shitting the bed with my movie cred here. I need to upgrade this to Blu-ray or something, because this is a great movie. And also, like, when Betty White died, everyone was saying, oh, the Golden Girls, oh, the fucking... I'm like, guys, Lake Placid. Watch Lake Placid. This was basically, though, like, was described to me as a kid. I was like, why isn't there a crocodile movie that's like Jaws? They're like, well, there is a movie. It's called Lake Placid. And they were telling me that this was Jaws, but for crocodiles. And they're not correct, but that's as closest to being right as you're gonna get. So we'll talk about Lake Placid in more depth some other day, but there are more Lake Placid movies, and it's like it became like a Sci-Fi Channel franchise staple. It even crossed over with the Anaconda franchise, so I think it'd be fun to do them both in the same video. But yes, you should watch Lake Placid, it's great.
You wanna know something cool about crocodiles?
Yeah.
Every time they break a tooth, it's always replaced with another tooth.
Like a shark?
Yeah, but not as cool. Anyways, did you know a shotgun fuck. But best part is, you know how tough these bastards are? They can take a 12 gauge straight to the dome, walk it off like nothing ever happened.
Can you do that?
Maybe once or twice, but, you know, gotta be a pretty lucky guy to get a shot like that on Sam Slicer.
This is one that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, but it is Black Water. If you haven't seen Black Water, you're missing out so hard. I want to tell the story about this exact DVD I'm holding in my hands right now. When I was a kid, I'd go to Family Video, and I remember seeing this case. It's gonna be blurry, but there's a woman screaming underwater in like murky lake water, and there's a crocodile behind her. That image was so fucking scary to me as a kid. I'm gonna just pull up the poster here so I don't have to hold this forever. And there's also like crocodiles like circling this boat, and it looks like literally Silent Hill is a swamp there. This is probably my favorite crocodile movie. Not my favorite of alligator and crocodile movies, which, you know, I took a big shit on alligators earlier, only for my favorite one to be an alligator movie. This is probably my favorite crocodile movie, though. I rented it as a kid because I saw that case, and I was obviously, you know, into movies where a crocodile or a shark or a snake or whatever eats a fucking person. I was so pleasantly surprised, and it was something that I didn't even quite really realize as a kid. I was more just like there to see the crocodile eat people, but it held my attention, even though it's more of kind of like a slow burn movie. And it's one of those movies, it seems to be when they make a shark or a crocodile or alligator or snake movie or whatever the fuck nowadays, it's never like a monster movie. It's always like one person stuck in one tiny location to save on money, and they can't get away because there's water on all sides and there's a dangerous marine predator in the water. Black Water kind of started all that. And this movie came out a long time ago. This was 2008. So I think Open Water might predate Black Water, but Black Water is a totally different beast, and it's not going for that kind of documentary style that Open Water had. This is like a movie, but it's a low budget movie, and it was the first one to kind of come up with the idea of like, what if a boat flips over and we have a small cast of characters trapped in a tree and there's a crocodile beneath them. There's an issue with those movies where you get people stuck in one location and they can't leave. A good example would be like Open Water 1 or 2, where you just kind of become miserable. The character's not fun to be around. The characters are not fun to be around. The situation seems so helpless that you just kind of are like miserable, and you're not having any fun. You're not waiting for the monster to kill anybody. You're just kind of like sitting there thinking about death constantly. Black Water is one of those kinds of movies, but the characters never really dip into unlikable territory. The whole time you're kind of still rooting for them. And it does say inspired by true events, and I think that's probably bullshit, but as a kid, that was kind of one of my first brushes with the whole inspired by true story or whatever deal, and I literally was watching something that I thought actually happened. And so that was kind of my first experience with that, and it was very effective. But then rewatching it recently, just to see if it holds up, and it definitely does, I was pleasantly surprised to learn that it was not reliant on that realism factor, that the movie itself was so well directed that it had that realism. There's also a lot of really well done practical crocodile effects in this movie, and I remember the characters keep coming up with different plans to try and get out of the situation, that it kept making it interesting. It never became boring. I never felt like the characters were just waiting like to die, basically. They were proactive, they kept trying to think of something, so then you remained invested because you're like, okay, well, this might work. Let's see how they pull this off. And the characters never do anything so intensely stupid that you're like, okay, it's lost me. I can't even root for these people because I wouldn't have done that, you know? And the climax to it is very satisfying and very intense. It kind of reminds me of like the bear attack scene from the movie The Edge, which is one of the best killer bear movies out there, which someday we'll do a killer bear video if you guys want that. But The Edge has that one bear attack scene where it's like, you know it's not a real bear. You know it's like a fake bear. But it's such a well done scene that you're like really like white knuckle, and it's just a really well done sequence, you know? That's kind of how the climax of Black Water is, where it's just woman versus crocodile. And it's a very intense, you know, survival horror film. Try and find weapons, try and find anything you can. We have a gun, but we don't have bullets. We have a flashlight, but the light's going down. We don't have any food. We have, you know, a way to get to like mud over here, but we can't reach it. And the crocodile, while it doesn't necessarily behave like the actual animal would, maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not a crocodile expert. I'm not the guy from Lake Placid. I'm not that guy. But I don't think they behave like this. But even if it doesn't, it's got Jaws cred. You know, where it's like the crocodile transcends being just an animal and becomes an actual character in the movie. So who the fuck is texting me? Black Water. You should check it out. This DVD. Oh, the other thing I was going to bring up. When that video store eventually went out of business, I had such a fond memory with this movie. I walked in there and I was picking up movies to buy because they were selling all their stock. This is the actual DVD that I got to rent as a kid, and I got to rewatch it, the same exact disc that I as a child rented. And I was so satisfied to have this in my collection. It's got kind of like a yellowish grain to it, and even like the little like sticker of where the price used to be on it. But I was just so happy that this movie got to come home with me, because I know for a fact it left the biggest impact on me than it did anybody else. And if you haven't seen it, it's really, really good. It's really, really well done. I didn't want to make too many jokes about it because I just do want this movie to receive the respect that it deserves.
Sam, who'd win in the fight between you and Crocodile Dundee?
Well, obviously, you want to know who Crocodile Dundee's biggest inspiration was? This cold-blooded, cold-hearted, badass babadad killer right here.
Sam, how old are you?
What year is it?
2022.
37. 50. Anyways, moving on to the next question.
So I know we were going to talk about good movies, but I really want to talk about Primeval. Why do I want to talk about Primeval? Well, you're going to learn some shit today. This is going to be an educational video on top of being a celebration about crocodile movies. There is a thing. This is not something I'm bullshitting out of my butthole. This is a real deal. And if you know anything about this movie, you know what I'm about to start talking about. There is a crocodile alive today, allegedly, named Gustave. Okay, we're just gonna read some of these facts about this alleged crocodile. So Gustave they have not updated his Wikipedia article. It still says is and not was. So this is written as in what the opposite of posthumous. Okay, I don't know what the fuck the term would be. Gustave is a large male Nile crocodile who lives in Burundi. He is notorious for being a man-eater and is rumored to have killed as many as 300 people from the banks of the Ruzizi River and the northern shores of Lake Tanganyika. Though the actual number is difficult to verify, he has obtained near mythical status and was greatly feared by the people in the region. Gustave was named by Patrice Fay, a herpetologist who has been studying and investigating him since the late 1990s. Much of what is known about Gustave stems from the film Capturing the Killer Croc, which aired in 2004 on PBS, which I did watch as a kid, and the film documents a capture attempt and study on Gustave. There's a photograph of Gustave, which I will put up on the screen so you can actually see that this is a real deal. And he hatched in what they believe to be 1955, which would make him about 66 or 67 years old. Which, like I said before, crocodiles can be like 200, so this motherfucker's probably still tooling around. And he's a male. Species is Crocodilius niloticus, known for allegedly killing up to 300 people. His estimated weight is 900 kilograms, which is 2,000 pounds. His description. Since Gustave has not been captured, his exact length and weight is unknown. But in 2002, it was stated that he could be easily more than 18 feet fucking long and weigh more than 2,000 pounds. He was estimated to be around 100 years old in order to achieve such an outstanding size. However, Further, more careful observation of Gustave revealed a complete set of teeth when he opened his mouth. Since a 100-year-old crocodile should be nearly toothless, according to the documentary, he is estimated to be probably no older than 60 and likely still growing. Gustave is also known for the 3 bullet scars on his body. His right shoulder blade was found to be deeply wounded. Circumstances surrounding the 4 scars are unknown. Scientists and herpetologists have studied Gustave, claim that his uncommon size and weight impede his ability to hunt the species' usual agile prey, such as fish, antelope, and zebra, forcing him to attack larger animals such as hippopotamuses, larger wildebeests, and to some extent,
humans.
according to a popular local warning, he is said to hunt and leave his victims' corpses uneaten. The documentary film also stated that since crocodiles can go several months without eating, Gustave could afford to select his prey carefully. When I was a kid learning about this, when I heard about this from that fucking PBS documentary, I shit my actual pants clean off. I'm like, you're telling me that there is a crocodile alive today that's literally like a crocodile that they would make a movie about? You're telling me that there's a crocodile with a badass name like Gustave, okay, who has killed almost 300 people, has bullet scars on his body, who's literally got a villain origin story about how he's too big for his age to hunt young, agile prey, so he's been forced to hunt humans, but that he kills people and leaves their bodies laying around uneaten to, like, send a warning? I've been fascinated for a long time about how villains are created in real life, you know? There's a lot of interesting scenarios you can put in where you can kind of draw a direct path between someone's life leading to them to the point that they are now that makes them the monster that they are. You know, unique circumstances, unique living situation, unique world perspective, unique like attributes to them that make them such a uniquely like evil character to stand out, that you're just kind of amazed by, because you're like, wow, they could make a movie about this person. This is literally a movie character. And then you think about fictional characters and you're like, if they're really well written, you can draw that line with them as well and kind of make that connection. Gustave is the closest thing we have in real life to an actual movie monster that's living, breathing, and is real. That there's documented hard science based around. In theory, you should be able to make the most badass movie ever. You could get a really good director, a really good budget, and you could make a movie about this crocodile. You wouldn't even have to make shit up. I just read you the facts that they have on this fucking thing. You could just adapt that and make the sickest movie. Like the coolest movie ever. Or you could make Primeval. There is no inspired by the true story of the most bloodthirsty crocodile ever. I'm gonna let you know right now, Primeval's fucking gay. Okay, this movie sucks. And it's so frustrating because this is the only movie we have about Gustave as a crocodile. They way exaggerate his size, terrible CGI. The movie focuses on like these drug cartels or whatever, and it's mainly about like the humans trying to survive them in addition to Gustave, and Gustave is kind of played more as like a secondary villain, but they bill it as like it's a kill a crocodile movie. It's not the worst thing you're ever gonna see in your life. Like if you had friends together and you watched this, it's a fun evening, I guess. Which is what I did, and I did have fun with it, and that's why I still own it. But it could have been so much more, and that's the problem. Instead of getting Lake Placid, but serious, and like really fucking brutal, and terrifying, and gritty, and real, we got Lake Placid 4. Except based around this actual thing that I just told you about that's totally awesome, that you're already looking up to learn about. Because it's the coolest thing ever, right? Right? But all we have is Primeval to show for it. Gustave, remember what I said earlier about how crocodiles have been busting their ass to get as much as big enough of a reputation as Jaws has, but have never gotten there? Gustave himself has put in so much work to being an actual movie monster. A real life Jaws. A real life Lake Placid crocodile. And this is what you gave him. If I was Gustave, He's got 4 bullet wounds already. Why put another bullet in my soft underbelly? Because this is pathetic, guys. Do better. You could do better. My lord. Gustave. Justice for Gustave. Damn it.
Hey, Cameraman, you still yapping on over there about how I killed Gustave?
Yeah, I heard about that feller.
How do you think I did it? How do you think I did it? Look at me. Look at me up and down. Tell me what I used.
Did you hit him with your signature move?
No.
You use a rocket launcher?
No.
I mean, he was a pretty big son of a bitch.
I used these. The only 2 guns I'd ever need. Lefty and righty.
Did you stick your thumb up his ass?
See, that's where it all began. I had him up in a chokehold, reared him back like I had him in a chokehold, holding him fat sacks right on his neck. And I was like, this isn't enough. He's bucking, he's kicking. This is a 400,000-pound crocodile. I swear to God. Took my thumb right into his cloaca, ran that bitch up in
Right in his cloaca?
fucking like a horse. Then after that, he couldn't take no more. Took my whole hand and got a good hold of his fucking shit sack and whipped it out.
You ate it afterwards, right?
I ate every bit of that motherfucker.
What's the best tasting recipe for alligators?
You eat the baby alligators. So the parents, they don't always love their young. That has nothing to do with me. They'd eat their babies. Babies get swallowed whole. They'd go into shit sack. You rip out the shit sack, whole preserved crocodile baby. Nice and tender from that stomach acid. All you gotta do, throw it on the grill. Char it, 1, 2, boom. It's like the pizza roll from Louisiana.
Dark Age is really, really good. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than it's classic Ozploitation material. The dude who plays the bad guy in Wolf Creek is in this movie. David Gopilli. Or is it John Jarrett? That guy, he's in Wolf Creek. He's a lot younger and a lot sexier in this movie. Like, he's like super ultra turbo sexy in this movie. Like, we're going to talk about Robert Forster in Alligator in a little bit. If there was a competition between sexiest male leads in a killer crocodile alligator movie, guy from Wolf Creek would definitely win the crocodile, division. But Robert Forster would be right behind him in the alligator division. If you ask me to decide who I find sexier between those two guys, ooh, that's really difficult. I'd have to rewatch this one. Right now, I would say Robert Forster, but this guy's really good looking. He's a fucking stud in this movie. Like, he's a hunk. But this is a great movie. I mean, even Quentin Tarantino said Dark Age is a kick-ass combo of giant monster movie, ecological horror, and Ozploitation at its finest. Hey, I said it was good Ozploitation. Yeah, it's classic Ozploitation stuff. If you want Aussie, Australian kind of horror, this is great Australian horror. But it's also, if you want to see a crocodile eat a small child, I'm talking like a toddler, like 2 years old, and you want to see the kid cry and his mother watch and scream in horror as the crocodile slowly approaches, and you're like, no, well, I mean, someone's going to come in and save the kid, right? Someone will save this kid, right? And the kid's crying and just standing there, gaping into the maw of this crocodile as it approaches, and the mother's like rushing to get to him in time, and you're like, wow, they're really drawing this out. This is suspenseful. And then see the crocodile chomp down on this kid's head and crush it, and his brain come out, and him take the body in, and the mother wail in horror as her child was just eaten in front of her by a fucking crocodile. If you want to see that happen, I think Dark Age is probably the movie for you, because you're not going to find that in too many other films. But on top of that, Dark Age has a lot of great human stuff going on, which a lot of times with these kinds of movies, you're kind of just waiting for the humans to shut the fuck up so we can get to the crocodile eating somebody. Dark Age is one of those examples where I think almost the human material is more interesting than the crocodile material. This, honestly, with the right, like, if they had just altered this a bit and maybe made it a little bit later, this could have been the definitive Gustave movie. Because it feels like a real crocodile movie. It's not really a monster movie. It's a movie, it's a horror film set in Australia that features crocodiles, but it's really kind of about all the other stuff that goes on in it. But it is a crocodile movie, and that's why it's on this list. I can't say too much about it because if I'm being honest, I haven't seen it in a while. I just remember it being stellar, And also, I watched it again with some friends, and we were kind of drunk, and it was a lot of fun then. So it's fun sober, and it's fun drunk, and it's got that absolute hunky piece of man meat in this movie who could be named David Gulpilili or John Jarrett. He could be named one of those two things. But I do know that he was the guy in Wolf Creek. And if you had told me that the dude from Wolf Creek was actually a sexy, you know, like, man when he was younger, like he was a stud wearing like short shorts, you know, like, and you could see like the outline of his junk and the outline of his briefs, and he was taking his shirt off all the time, and he was sweating, and he was wearing like the safari hat, and he had like a machete, and he was fighting crocodiles and like fist fighting other guys. If you told me that he was in a movie like that, and then also went on to be like, if you told me the dude from Wolf Creek, as we're sitting here watching Wolf Creek, if you told me that that guy was also the thing that I just said he was, I'd be like, what? I don't believe you, sir. I think you're confused with somebody else. And then you'd pull out Dark Age, and we would watch it, and we'd have a great evening because Dark Age is a great movie, and I'd be like, wow, fuck, I was wrong. God, I was so wrong, and you were so right because Dark Age was so good. That was the worst review I think I've ever given for a movie. Definitely not the worst review like I've ever said, like, oh, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. But in terms of coherence, I think that was probably the worst way to recommend that movie to you. But I promise you, if you watch it, you're not going to be disappointed. Have I ever let you down? Have I ever let you down? I had people actually reach out to me and say, hey man, your werewolf movie video, you brought up Late Phases, and I didn't think you were serious because of how stern you were being. But then I watched Late Phases and found out how genuine you were and how serious you were that I needed to watch it and how that was so warranted. And I said, you're welcome. I don't fuck around with these things. And when I say Dark Age is a good movie, when I say that, you know, Black Water is a great crocodile movie, I'm not fucking around. I'm not just saying these things. I feel these things. And I feel that also about Rogue.
Sneaky like. Get on up there. Once you find her nest and you realize she's not around, you gotta be quick. You fucking stomp on all them bitches. Every single egg. Not one egg left. When you're done, and only when, you sit down there, you wait, hand up, look at all angles, get your weapon out. She's coming for you, the big one. Mama gonna come, she's coming right out there. You're gonna jump at her, mouth wide open, hand in, just like that. Once you got your hand in there, you're gonna put your other hand in there, and start rolling.
Have you guys ever seen Rogue? Because it used to be hard to find, and now it's pretty easy to find. This movie, I'm pretty sure, from the director of Wolf Creek. Time is a flat circle, guys. And remember also what I talked about, where I'm like, okay, in kind of when you're making a killer animal movie, your options are to do a Jaws, where it's like an action-adventure kind of thing, or you can do an open water where you're stuck in one location with a small cast of characters and they got to try and figure out a way out of that. You can do that. Rogue is like, I'm going to do the stuck in location thing with a bunch of people, and we're going to have every kind of monster movie stock character you can, but they're all going to be fun to be around, and we're going to kill them off all on screen in super brutal ways, in super creative ways, and the pacing is going to be fast, and we're going to keep things going, you know? But we're also going to then shift at the end of the movie and have it be one guy versus a crocodile, and he's going to make a spear and go into the crocodile's fucking lair and fight the crocodile on land, and it's going to be like a horror survival game where he has to like jam a fucking spear in the crocodile's mouth. Like, Rogue is so good, and it has CGI crocodiles, but they look good, but it also has a lot of practical ones, if I recall, and they look good too. It was hard to find, and I remember my buddy and I that I talked about that we watched like all these kinds of movies together for so long. We would like make lists of like every kind of like killer animal movie we could find, every kind of like snake, spider, whatever movie, and because we just loved monster movies like that, like creature feature movies, like giant, mega shark, whatever. And Rogue was one that we both for the longest time had heard was a great crocodile movie. People were saying it was like the definitive crocodile movie even. There's a devout group of people a devout cult even. That's why it's a cult classic of people who are saying, why are we all talking about Lake Placid as being the definitive crocodile movie when Rogue is right here? And I'm kind of one of those people. I think Rogue is a lot better than Lake Placid. I think Lake Placid is probably more accessible and has broader appeal because it has comedic elements. It's got Betty White, you know, it's got a higher budget. But Rogue is so tightly directed, like it's so crisp looking that you really can't go wrong with it. I don't have much to say about it because I want to get into these last kind of like 3 movies that aren't on my shelf. But this, out of everything I just said, if you're only going to watch one movie, I would like for you to watch Blackwater, but in my heart of hearts, I think Rogue is probably better. I think I'm just more, you know, nostalgic for Blackwater, and I think Blackwater is the art house, you know, the artsy-fartsy kind of like slow-moving version of this movie. This movie is the Lake Placid version of Blackwater.
See what we got here. Oh yeah, it's a dehydrated gator. Oh, see, I'm missing my flavor saver. I guess if I put that on for later. That's a dehydrated mama gator. All right.
Oh. Sam, you better clean off your knife.
Moving on.
Let's talk about Alligator and Alligator II. But before we talk about them, let's talk about Crawl. Because I have it. I have that movie on DVD and it's not here. And I don't know why. I don't know where the fuck it went. But Crawl, I went to see in theaters. And it was awesome. It was really good. I was so happy to see a competently put together, like big budget, well crafted killer alligator movie in a theater again. That was like done with like care put into it. It felt like the people that made it gave a shit. The characters are kind of thin, whatever, but the setting was on point. The idea of the water, like the levees kind of breaking and the water constantly elevating to move the characters to different levels of the house. It was kind of designed like a short form horror survival game, which I keep bringing up with these kind of movies, but that kind of is like the best way to go about it. And it kept coming up with interesting excuses to get other characters in the water, to get them killed by a by a fucking alligator. I was thinking about sharks because I was thinking about The Shallows, because The Shallows had a lot of the same features I just said about Crawl. Like, you know, it was a blonde chick stuck in one location, big budget, you know, like, or at least looked pretty expensive, you know, but like they were like, you know, small cast, small one location, but they kept coming up with interesting reasons to get other people out there to get eaten by the shark, you know. Crawl is to those things what The Shallows was to shark movies. And I think Crawl is actually better because it's got I like the setting better. I think that's about it. Let's talk about Alligator.
Wait, you know what? Before the next one, hey, out of curiosity, have you ever had a sexual attraction to a gator before?
I can't say that I have, Sam.
All right, we can't be friends. Anyways,
I'm gonna summon everything I can to pitch to you the Alligator duology, because Shudder just put these movies up. I know that Scream Factory had to put them out, and a buddy of mine bought them, and I was kind of jealous, but I'd never seen them, so I'm like, well, I'm not going to beat myself up over it because maybe they're not, like, incredible. No, they were incredible, and I'm sad that I didn't get them when I had the chance. I'm definitely going to try and track them down now, because all the movies I just talked about pale in comparison to Alligator. This is the definitive killer alligator movie, in my personal experience. Robert Forster, all of the things I said about the guy from Wolf Creek and Dark Age applies to him in this movie, except like tenfold. This is literally one of the greatest creature feature main protagonists I've ever seen. He's stellar in this movie. He's so well written, he's so well acted. You love spending time with him that even when the alligator's not on screen, you're not bored, because he's got such great screen presence throughout the movie. Side characters are even likable. You get to kind of know people. When certain characters die, you're like,
Ah, fuck, you know, I kind of like that guy, but hey, at least Robert Forster's still around.
The alligator itself is done exclusively with practical effects and real alligators next to miniatures, which worked super well. The science behind the alligator itself is obviously parodying like kind of older like 50s 60s creature features, except it's playing it so straight that it's like if you're in on the joke, it's funny, but the movie's not slapping you over the head with how stupid it is. But also, if you love those kinds of movies, you appreciate the dedication to playing those tropes seriously. And I think that was really brilliant. The death scenes themselves are stellar. I love the idea of like an alligator in the sewer. I mean, that's kind of like something people have always talked about, like, you know, oh, there's alligators in the sewer. This movie commits to that concept, even explains why it couldn't really happen in real life, but then says like, oh, well, because of these chemicals we're dumping that's making it a mutation, that's why it can happen. And that's why we have our alligator thing. The final climax with Robert Forster versus this alligator, like the last 20 minutes, I'd say, of this movie are a thrill ride. And it goes from the alligator being underground and them chasing him there, him going up topside at night, him going up topside during the day, crashing a fucking wedding and like destroying the whole thing, and he's like massacring people, and it's like all sorts of interesting ways for an alligator to kill people. You know, he's eating people with his mouth, he's slapping people with his tail and they're dying, he's crushing people inside of cars, you know, but then he also goes down underground, and Robert Forster goes under there with like sticks of dynamite and a handgun, and it's like a Resident Evil bullet sponge boss in a sewer with like fake fog rolling in, and it looks just phenomenal. Like you're sitting there just as a creature feature fan, you're just in heaven. You're like, this movie needs to be everywhere. Why wasn't this shown? Why wasn't this Jaws? Why wasn't this shown to me? You know? And I felt that the entire time I was watching, and it's rare to come across a movie that scratches that creature feature itch the way that this movie did. It's literally my favorite killer alligator movie, and I just saw it like a couple days ago. That's insane to me. Yeah, Alligator kicked ass. Alligator 2, The Mutation. I was worried. I was really worried because, you know, Alligator 1, they had remastered it. It was Blu-ray. Robert Forster's character was in it, obviously, and it just took me such by storm. I'm like, well, I can't wait to see what the second one has in store. And then I learned it's one of those sequels that's like none of the returning cast, very little connection to the first movie, you know, kind of just a sequel in name alone, that kind of thing. Once you get over the fact that it's not the same thing as the first Alligator movie, I'm in no way saying that this is better or that it's really even should have been called Alligator 2. It makes a terrific double feature because it's a great movie in its own right. It's no masterpiece. I would legitimately describe Alligator as a masterpiece of creature feature filmmaking. Alligator 2 is a great creature feature, but it's not like, you know, blow my balls off incredible like the first one was. I think the biggest problems that it suffers from is really just that the setting isn't as interesting. You can tell that the alligator isn't around quite as much. When he is around, they make it count. But also I think that Robert Forster's absence is really felt because he really was like one of the best things about that first movie. And also the main character that we replace him with is just some fucking old geezer who was not nearly as sexy. He was not nearly as likable. But then you realize that he's not really the lead and that this is an ensemble piece. In the first movie, it was Robert Forster and his amazing friends versus the alligator. This movie is team of guys versus the alligator and human secondary villain. And I think it worked. It worked in kind of like a Humanoids from the Deep way, where we sort of just have this ragtag group of characters and none of them can really claim to be the lead character. And they all kind of come together in different instances. And there's a great middle sequence where they're all taking turns kind of going into the sewer to try and face off against the alligator and getting picked off. Also, Kane Hodder's in the movie as one of the characters, which was kind of cool. They all get picked off, and then kind of all these different people from different walks of life join together to unite against this threat, when the real threat turns out to be capitalism the whole time. The real threat turned out to be big business, hedge fund billionaires, you know. That turned out to be the threat. And nature rises up against it. And I thought that was kind of cool that even in the end, the alligator wasn't even our enemy. It was the guy. It was the big guy that was pitting us all against each other. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I probably am. But Alligator 2 is great. And I think you should watch them both back to back together. If you're not going to do that, watch Alligator, and then next week watch Alligator 2. Don't just watch Alligator 1. Alligator 2 is definitely worth your time. But Alligator 1, I'm telling you, that's the definitive. You know, that's the gold standard going forward for killer crocodile alligator media. I think that this is all I've had to say about this topic. I hope that this is all I had to say, because, you know, eventually we're going to come back and we're talking about Lake Placid and stuff, but I want this to stand as the definitive alligator crocodile experience. I've loved these types of movies ever since I was a little kid. I used to have this crocodile, it was like a cheapo, like, gas station toy of a crocodile that was hollow out. You could stick a whole 3 3/4 inch action figure down his mouth, and I would play with that thing forever. And I had like my own like little movies going on my head, but I couldn't make them because I didn't have a camera. But I would make movies with him where he'd be eating G.I. Joes and stuff. And like I had this whole franchise called the Bite films. Bite is what it was called. And I'd make like little posters for the movie, but I wouldn't record it. I would just act it out for just me to see. And they were like Jaws, but for this crocodile. And these G.I. Joe guys were always fighting him. And my Dusty G.I. Joe action figure, he was always going after this crocodile. I don't know why. He was like the Quint. He was his mortal nemesis. And all of his friends had constantly gotten eaten. Maybe I even have a picture of that crocodile somewhere so you can kind of see me playing with it. That'd be kind of a cool ending to this movie, to this video. Yeah, I mean, these movies really were like my lifeblood as a kid. I watched so many of them. So many that I didn't even get to talk about today because they were just kind of trash. I tried to pick up the best ones, the ones that were most worthy to bring up in my crocodile alligator retrospective. But yeah, I have a passion for these types of movies, and I wanted to share it with you. And I want to do this kind of shit more often, where I just want to blab about something, and so I will. Because it's my channel and I can talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. We're going to do that shark movie video someday. We're going to do it. I just need to rest my vocal cords and rest my brain, because we've talked so much about alligators and crocodiles. I've talked for a lifetime, man. This is your drive-in episode. I was going to do a drive-in update where I covered like a bunch of like new shit that I had seen over the last few months. I don't want to, because I was going to review like The Batman, Doctor Strange. Piss off. That's what I say. Piss off. Fuck me. Let me get some more root beer.
You know, I'm gonna tell you guys something. One of the most dangerous moves a gator has in its repertoire is a death roll. However, today I'm gonna teach you how to escape it. An illegal black market trick that only the bravest of the brave alligator or crocodile hunters can pull off. I can pull it off every time with 100% effect. What you do is, gator looking you straight on. You're looking the gator straight on. It's gonna come at you, you're gonna come at it. You're going in, plunge style. It jumps at you, you jump. Like that, all right? Once you're in the gator, its head is on you. It's gonna turn clockwise. What you're gonna do in this time is turn counterclockwise. You will both be spinning in opposite directions in the center. Now in the middle, there will be a seismic force that builds up that has enough power to power the next 2 cities within a 34-mile radius for the next 10 generations. So only do this move if you absolutely have no choice. I'm not kidding. Now that you got all your diving positions done, step 1, you're inside the gator. Hardest part is over. This guy's gonna start spinning clockwise to death roll your ass. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna spin counterclockwise, because you always spin counterclockwise. Do not mix that up. You will keep spinning, and what's going to happen is you're both going to be spinning. This constant spinning cycle, so dangerous that the amount of force and friction built up in between the 2 center follicles of your head and his head, you will cause nuclear fission to build up, being greater than or less than a nuclear bomb, killing everybody around you. So, and I say this wholeheartedly, only use this move if you absolutely have to.